The country of Thay is divided into 11 tharches. They're essentially the equivalent of America's states or Canada's territories or something like that. It's just tharch is the Thayan word for it. Each tharch is ruled by a tharchion if they're a male or a tharchioness if they are a female. In this video, I will be covering 7 of the 11 tharches, and then in my next video, I will be covering the remaining 4. So first up, we have the Alaor, the Docks of Thay. As of 1372 DR, it had a population of 15,000. 5,000 of those were sailors, and the rest were carpenters, stevedores, provisioners, sailmakers, shipwrights, and all the other artisans and professionals needed to maintain a fleet in port. It had a garrison of 1,000 soldiers, and then dozens of batteries of Thayan bombards. As of 1492 DR, its population has increased significantly to 81,500. Its main commerce are imports, fishing, and local retail. The badge of the tharch is the Daige, or Daige, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it means proud rule of the waves, and represents the navy, a gold sail on the ocean with Thay behind it. The Alaor comprises 2 islands off the southern coast where the Wizard's Reach meets the Eltabbar Sea. These islands are jagged and rocky with no arable land. Because of this, Alaor is dependent on imports for every necessity, including food and lumber. The Alaor is Thay's main naval base. It maintains extensive shipbuilding and repair facilities, a protected artificial harbor, and has a settlement with thousands of people. Other than being a naval base, it keeps the Sahuagin Sea safe from pirates and monsters, thus maintaining Thay's trade connection. The larger of the 2 islands is called Alaorin. It is a shipyard and naval base and has been built over and honeycombed with tunnels and chambers many times. The city above is where the sailors and other workers live with their families. The main harbor is called Thund Great Harbor Anchorage, and it is an expansive cove guarded by a sea arch. In the rock of the headlands lies a network of sea caves large enough to hide an entire fleet. At any given time, this harbor has around 12 naval ships and 50 merchant ships docked. For security reasons, local fishing boats have to operate out of the lesser harbor of Orjahet halfway around the island to the east. Orjahet is the trades moot and neutral ground for the poor, criminals, and outlanders. Raildreth is the smaller of the 2 islands. It has been, quote, made into a forested abode of the wealthy and powerful, replete with glade gardens and ornamental ponds. These elite Thayans live in their mansions, centered on the freshwater springs that rise from the Underdark in 3 places on the isle, end quote. Delhumide, the Spirit of Thay. As of 1492, it has a population of 58,000. Its main commerce consists of agricultural products and subsistence farming. Its heraldry is the Thamond, or Might of Making, which represents the productive crafters of the Tharch. Before Thay gained independence from Mulhorand, this was the most populous tharch of Thay, and the city of the same name was its capital. During the War for Thayan independence, the city was destroyed and left as a ruin, and the tharch was significantly reduced in population. During the 1300s DR, the tharch was mainly used for ranch land given its low population, but as of the current 1490s, the tharch's numbers are steadily increasing. Much of the ranch land is being replaced with farms, and roadways are constantly improved by crews of skeletons and zombies. The increasing population of the rest of Thay is dependent on the rising agricultural capacity of Delhumide. Their main crops are rice, wheat, and corn. Outside the ruins, Delhumide is the safest and most regimented of the tharches, being under the eye of High Regent Zaz-Tam. Rumors say he vents his frustrations on the populace here, and he uses the ruins for his more nefarious experiments. The ruins of Delhumide. The city of Delhumide was the capital of the Thayan province, when it was still a part of the Mulhorand Empire before 922 DR. During the War for Thayan independence, the city was destroyed and left as a ruin. The ruins are riddled with traps, demons, ghosts, living spells, brigands, wizard ghosts, and all manner of monsters. Of course, it also has valuable treasure and magical items. No structure higher than 1 story stands above ground, however labyrinthine tunnels still exist below. The lower levels are occupied by many subterranean races such as measles, darrow, kobolds, and beholderkin. Umratheros. This is the city that the Tharch is governed from, since Delhumide is not inhabitable. It is becoming a city of crafters known for carving wood, casting metal, and firing ceramic. The Tharch of Eltabbar, the Wealth of Thay. So according to Thay, Land of Red Wizards, the emphasis is on tab, so it should be pronounced Eltabbar. However, that sounds weird to me, and a lot of times I end up putting the emphasis on one of the other two syllables. So I either say Eltabbar or Eltabbar. I can't really decide which one I like more, and I kind of switch back and forth a lot. But just so you guys know, the correct pronunciation is Eltabbar. As of 1492, it has a population of 2.7 million. Its main commerce is caravan traffic, local retail, and agricultural products. Its heraldry is the Triumph, representing the wealth, glory, and might of the city of Eltabbar. Eltabbar is the northwest section of Thay between the first and second escarpment, except for a small bit that covers the western and southern edges of Lake Thalenbar. It is the wealthiest Tharch of Thay, housing the capital of the nation and containing the mansions of most of Thay's nobility. Most of the land between the rich valley of the River Thay and the River Umber is scrubland filled with roaming bands of orcs and gnoll soldiers. Old Nar ruins dot the remote regions of the Tharch, occasionally disgorging some forgotten demon that goes on a rampage until dealt with by red wizards. Eltabbar, the city. As of 1368, it had a population between 80,000 and 100,000, over half of which were slaves. The city of Eltabbar is the capital of Thay. Zastam changed the capital to the Citadel in Thaymount in 1377 DR, and that was still the capital as of 1479. However, by 1492, Eltabbar is once again the capital. Eltabbar is a beautiful, decadent city. Canals decorated with floating flowers and lined with tall, elegant stone walkways and Baroque buildings, consisting of domes and tall spires spread across the city in an intricate network. The wizards' residences are graceful, fluted towers built of colorful exotic materials. The river Eltar flows from Thaymount into Eltabbar as a foaming white waterfall through the city water gates and into the expansive blue-green Lake Thalenbar, where the white sails of Thayan ships can be seen on the horizon. Eltabbar's public parks are manicured gardens with exotic plants from all over Faerun. Their beautiful mechanical fountains are powered by undead or oxen, either under the streets out of sight or hidden with illusion magic. It is a city that exemplifies the class divide of Thay. You have rich nobles and red wizards in their elegant, exotic mansions, while slaves in the lower class toil in slums and alleys or tend to the gardens or dinner tables of the wealthy. Citizens of all ranks can be found here, but outlanders are rare. Anyone of significant power or influence in Thay, or desires to attain a measure of the same, regardless of their Tharch of origin, keeps quarters in Eltabbar. Because of the presence of Thay's most powerful, Eltabbar is a hotbed of intrigue. Well-armed street patrols are more common here. The Probity Corps operate openly, and plenty of other governmental spies operate within the city. Eltabbar is the heart of religious power in Thay. Quote, "Decrees go out from the highest-ranking priests in Eltabbar to everywhere else in Thay, because Eltabbar is where they meet, and where most of them dwell, when not living in their mansions in Thaymount or elsewhere on holy business." End quote. The Tharch Eltabbar, the city Eltabbar, and the river Eltar are all named after the demon lord Eltab, who had been imprisoned underneath the city for a time and was pivotal in the secession of Thay from Mulhorand. They built the city around the canals that formed the massive binding rune, and for a long time it was illegal to create or possess maps of the city. The Stone Wizard. This walled way-in stands where the Sizul Road branches off the High Road, with a statue in its front yard believed to be a mage who was turned to stone long ago. It is notorious as a meeting area and neutral ground between rivals and foes, where almost any behavior is tolerated by the authorities. The Tharch of Gauros, the Wilderness of Thay. As of 1492, it had a population of 28,000. Its main commerce is mining and subsistence farming. Its heraldry is the Conthant, or tireless burrower, and represents the mining achievements of the Tharch. Gauros is the wildest, poorest, and most thinly populated Tharch of Thay, with no major cities. It is a rocky and rugged land of pine forest and barren high mesas. The land is extremely hilly with no flat areas, but is verdant and one of the most well-watered in Thay, with many springs, tiny bogs, and snowmelt rivers from the Sunrise Mountains. I'm a little confused because the 3rd edition book Unapproachable East describes Gauros as barren multiple times, but then the 5th edition book Thay Land of the Red Wizards says that it is one of the most well-watered Tharches in Thay. Now, this could mean that the land has just changed for the better in the last 100 years between the editions, or it could simply mean that while the place is well-watered, the rocky land makes growing vegetation difficult, which is why they are only subsistence farmers and have no surplus of food. In addition to its unspoiled lands, it contains a mineral-rich gorge. Its main exports are smelted ingots, mainly copper and iron, and logs of various hardwoods. The hills of the region are crowned by the many ruins of abandoned Red Wizard towers and ancient Ramviran keeps, haunted by the ghost of its former mages. Most of the folk in Gauros are Rashami woodcutters, goat herders, and miners. Many Thayans think of this as a backwoods region of barren hills, monsters, and dirty woodcutters and miners. The citizens are poor, but also free, and have little need for coin, as they pride themselves on being nearly self-sufficient. The inhabitants of Gauros value pragmatism and living close to the land. They dislike the political intrigue and city life of the rest of Thay. They wish to keep Gauros as it is and not let cities, marching undead, tons of slaves, and red wizards become numerous. The Gorge of Gauros. The cold and fast-flowing river Gauros flows from the Sunrise Mountains down the first escarpment, where it carves out the Gorge of Gauros. It is over 100 miles of deep, narrow canyons that divides the Thayan Plateau from the Mulsinyar Plateau in Rashaman. The gorge averages half a mile or more in depth and 20 miles wide for most of its length. The female red dragon Magravistala lives in a dry, hanging valley in its heart, and the brigands known as the Quiet Claw lair in an underground labyrinth beneath a ruin called Falcon Fang. They raid Thay with precision and eliminate red wizards they deem must be eradicated. Daggertooth Pass. It is one of the only two passes through the Sunrise Mountains. A large mountain with a knife-like peak lies to one side of this route, giving the pass its name. Snow lingers on its shaded northern sides all year long, and some years it is completely impassable. Thay maintains a fortress on this route called Shurgathos, which is considered one of the worst spots for a soldier to be posted. Gauros Keep, a stone fortress the Tharches ruled from and where the Tharchianess lives. It maintains a garrison of well-armed and well-armored Thayan knights. Dinzar, a prospecting town functioning as a hub for mining supplies and ore processing for the various mines in Gauros. Its main ore is copper, but they also process lead, silver, and a little gold. It is a place of sulfurous smoke from furnaces, large piles of firewood, people carting supplies with oxen and mules, and hard drinking. Dinzar is a rough frontier town consisting of outcasts, misfits, and crossbreeds who don't take kindly to nobles, red wizards, or the wealthy. The miners are incredibly strong, capable of taking out a Thayan veteran soldier with one punch and ripping apart undead. Lapendrar, the Pulse of Thay. As of 1492, it had a population of 1,006,500. Its main commerce are cash crops, agricultural exports, and durable fine goods. The badge of the Tharch is the Piramal, or Great Bounty, and represents the abundant crops of the Tharch's farming. Lapendrar begins its border on the edge of the second escarpment and goes all the way to the borders of Thesk and Aglaron, and its southern border is marked by the river Lapendrar. Before the Spell Plague, this was the weakest held Tharch of Thay, because its proximity to Aglaron created border disputes, and its largest city, Amruthar, was nominally independent from Thay. As of the 1490s, this doesn't seem to be the case anymore. However, it is still a center of covert hostility to Thayan rule, and Zaz-Tam relies on the Probity Corps, assassins, and other spies rather than clamping down with military presence to control the region. The eastern uplands are ranchlands, open country, and smallhold farms. Recently, red wizards have been ordered to work weather magic here to provide dependable rainfall, lessening many of the complaints against the mages the locals usually have. Amruthar. Population as of 1368 DR was 30,000. During this time, it was an independent city not part of the Thayan government. It was ruled by a hierarch who was actually a puppet of the Zolkirs. Red wizards left Amruthar alone as long as they continued to give tribute to Thay. During the Spell Plague, it was devastated by earthquakes, lava, and falling rocks and ash. During this time, it was inhabited by a mummy lord high priest of Kosith along with his fanatics, and was tolerated by Zaz-Tam. After the Second Sundering, it appears to have been rebuilt and seems to not be independent anymore, since the Tharchianess has her troops stationed in the city to keep order. It has a wide array of goods and plenty of moneylenders. Before the Spell Plague, it was described as having wide streets with many shops and inns, a central marketplace with colorful pavilions and booths, and several well-maintained parks. Tilbrand. This city was severely damaged during the Salamander Wars. As of 1368 DR, it was not occupied by Thay because of its distance and difficulty of maintaining administration so far away. It paid tribute to Lapendrar, but was essentially independent. It had close ties with Aglarond, and Aglarondan rangers helped protect the city. It was led by an elected council, but had a ceremonial High Lord to oversee festivals and deal with diplomats. I have no information on what it was like after the Spell Plague or Second Sundering. Nethentir. Nethentir is a fishing settlement, but also has a thriving theater scene. There are many rival theaters putting on tragedies, comedies, and satires of red wizards and Thayan nobles, and the locals frequently buy broadsheets of poetry and prose. It is also a center of glass blowing and staining and fine wood carving. Nethentir is located on the shores of Lake Umber and beneath the tower cliffs of the First Escarpment. It contains one of the few public routes into the country, a precarious winding road rising above the city. Because many merchant caravans pass through here to get to Thay, it has many inns and supply businesses and also acts as a defense from invasion. It has a large fortress and several outposts occupied by gnolls and human cavalry. Soldiers patrol the grassland surrounding the city and the precarious cliffside trail that winds up the escarpment to the Thayan Plateau. As of 1368 DR, the military service here was considered tedious and undesirable, so they unwound by wreaking havoc in Nethentir, brawling, wrecking inns, molesting citizens, etc. The locals dreaded days when troops arrived on leave and responded by bolting their doors, hiding in their homes, and taking extended fishing trips on the lake. Nethchet. Located near Nethentir across Lake Umber. It is a center of innovation and mechanization. They love assembly line processes and the creation of gadgets, such as coin belts that sort coins for you, or bracers that hold quills, parchment, stamps, and a dozen other useful for traders items. Thanks to their automated processes and innovation, bolts, nails, spikes, window frames, and corner braces are made faster and cheaper here than anywhere else. This has made the makers of Nethchet extremely wealthy. They, like any country with centralized authority, detest change and pushes back on these innovations. Authorities who meddle in their affairs and tax too heavily are utterly despised by the local Jetrons, and oftentimes they disappear, making it a dangerous place for spies, red wizards, and tax collectors. When the Jetrons aren't fighting the power, they are feuding among themselves. Nethchet is, quote, a place of workers' cabals, silent disappearances where unwanted individuals get strangled or drowned and then rendered down into locally produced preserved food for export, and quiet local mercantile feuds, end quote. The Priador, the Jewel of Thay. As of 1492, it has a population of 96,500. The badge of the Tharch is the Terelvahond? I don't know how to say that, or 3 jewels, and represents the 3 port cities of the Tharch. Its main commerce are cash crops and local retail. The Priador consists of coastal plains and rolling grasslands outside the First Escarpment. Besides small slave farm complexes, the city of Ankhars, where the Tharchian rules from, and the 3 coastal cities of Bezentur, Thassalin, and Murbant, referred to by sailors from other lands as the Jewels of Thay, the Priador is mostly wild countryside. Much of this countryside houses red wizard compounds with open reserves where they let monsters they have captured for research roam. These roaming monsters mean the citizens keep to the now walled cities. This leads to them feeling cut off from the rest of Thay and quietly resenting the red wizard rule. According to Thayan law, the creature's owners are not liable for any damage or deaths they inflict. You are allowed to defend yourself from these, but killing a red wizard's property causes more trouble than just being eaten by it. Bezentur. Or is it Byzanter? I don't know where the emphasis is. Anyway, it's also called the City of 1,000 Temples, the Citadel of Thieves, and the Heart of Thay. As of 1368, it had a population of over 100,000. Bezentur is the largest city in Thay, one of the wealthiest cities in Faerun, and is described as the Heart of Thay, a port city where trade of every sort passes through and temples to almost any deity can be found. It is a place of decadence, where any vice or depravity can be indulged in. Wealthy Byzantines buy new clothes and furniture constantly, move to different domiciles frequently, and are always purchasing or building a new, grander house. Quote, though Byzanter is nearly as large and prosperous as Waterdeep, it has none of that great city's joy and beauty. Resting like a suppurating sore along Thay's southern coastline, Byzanter is a dark, brooding, walled city where assassins walk unhindered, the word of the Red Wizards is unquestioned law, and every imaginable vice, as well as some unimaginable ones, may be instantly satisfied. End quote. Bezentur is very important culturally to Thay. It is where many fashions are set, it's where nobility used to make deals before the rule of the Red Wizards, where the largest slave markets used to be located, where markers of early Thayan culture were centered, and it is a center of early Thayan religion. Throughout all of Thay's history, times of war, and political turmoil, Bezentur has always been prosperous and flourished. It is a major religious center, which is why it has the nickname the City of 1,000 Temples. There are temples and shrines to almost every imaginable deity. Mask and Umberlee are especially popular given the importance of sailors and thieves to the city, and Azuth and Mistra were the only gods banned, at least as of the late 1300s. Zaz-Tam has eased up on religions after the Second Sundering and allows people to worship whoever they want for the most part, so I imagine Mistra and Azuth can be worshipped, but they're relatively unpopular. If Eltabbar is where upper priests fight behind closed doors for supremacy and temple policy is decided, Bezentur is where one goes to buy prayers, statuettes, holy water, and devotional jewelry in bulk, the mercantile heart of Thayan religion. In the late 1300s, taxes were abolished in Bezentur. Instead, the Tharchians simply took a portion of all cargo that entered the city. Escalante. As of 1368 DR, this city had a population of 20,000. Given its location at the mouth of the river Lapendrar, it is a thriving trade city second only to that of Bezentur. It is a, quote, vast, rambling settlement with only the central oldest section surrounded by a wall, end quote. The locals know how to party, and there seems to be a festival every 3 or 4 days, an excuse for music, dancing, drinking, and reciting terrible poetry while standing on tavern tables. High Regent Zaz-Tam seems to ignore Escalante, so it is one of the few places in all of Thay where people don't look over their shoulders and keep their voices down for fear of red wizards or spies. Outlanders come and go freely, non-red wizard spellcasters cast spells for a fee and sell potions and scrolls, and there's a thriving black market in goods stolen from civic storage warehouses, granaries, and even Thayan military barracks. Merbant. As of 1368, it had a population of 5,000. Merbant is a moderately sized coastal city that made its money from fishing and smuggling. It is, quote, the home of smugglers, traffickers of all types, and reeking fisherfolk, end quote. Most Thayans look down on Merbant as the tainted jewel, or the city of dirty, underhanded smugglers. Authorities do keep watch and assume any merchant who comes here too often is associated with smugglers, which means searches, inspections, ledger checks, and inducements to be paid in all directions. It is a clustered, easy-to-get lost in town where every street looks the same. Most of its buildings have amethyst-hued domes and large oval windows, and it is surrounded by the largest red wizard estates. Thassalon. Thassalon was a thriving fishing, farming, and trading settlement of 20,000, but after the Salamander War in 1357, it was badly damaged, becoming a burnt, run-down town that the Zolkir Asnar Thrul used as his personal domain. As of 1368, the soldiers had free reign to oppress, assault, or murder citizens. It was illegal to flee the city since the citizens were considered Thrul's personal possessions. As of 1492, Thassalon is a relatively small, sleepy city isolated from the rest of Thay, which the citizens are thankful for. It has wide streets that are never crowded and lots of statues lining every street. The statues are mostly oversized humans, usually forgotten local officials. Thassalon's biggest industries are sculpting statues and statuettes, goat herding, and making goat cheeses. In addition to the Tharches' 3 port cities and the town of Thassalon, you also have the town of Onhars, which is where the Tharchianess governs the Tharch from. Other than it being where the Tharchianess governs from, I don't really know anything about the city, except that it was hit by Azure fire during the Spell Plague and every inhabitant of the city was killed. However, as of 1492, it is back, but I don't have any more details on what it's like. Pyarados, the bright heart of Thay. As of 1492, the Tharch had a population of 84,000. The badge of Pyarados is the Sar Katath, or Red Fist, and represents the city of Pyarados itself. The Tharch runs between the eastern edge of Lake Thalambar and the Sunrise Mountains, right to the lower portion of the River Thazaram and the southern edge of the First Escarpment. Its geography mainly consists of rolling hills overlooked by the Sunrise Mountains. Pyarados is a base for prospectors and miners to find gems and ores in the Sunrise Mountains, and hunters and adventurers to explore the wilderness. There are many fortified smelters in the foothills east of the city of Pyarados, and veins of gems and ore have been discovered within the Tharch recently. It is viewed as a harsh backwater where red wizards run the money-making mines, merchants must claw and scrape to make a fortune while avoiding the dangerous political games, and laborers are treated and paid poorly. Since it was a jumping-off point for adventurers going into the mountains, as of the late 1300s, the Tharchianess Nymea Fokar charged adventurers 3 times the normal price for even basic equipment, the profits going to her of course, and made more fortunes from the taxes on mining operations. The city, Pyarados, had a population of 50,000 in 1368 DR, and then in 1492, it had a population of 4,000 in the Bright Heart, which is what they called the inner city, and then 60,000 in the outer city called the Shield. As of 1368, it was fairly new, so it consisted of many small homes arranged chaotically. Structures range from vast mansions to crude lean-tos, and there were few public works, although some streets were paved by wealthy individuals. The city is divided into 2 parts. The first is the original city, also called the Bright Heart, which is the central walled section that is where the seat of power is. It is clean, ordered, and luxurious. It is where red wizards, wealthy merchants, and other influential Thayans live. The other section is the outer city that slowly grows outside the walls of the core. It is called the Grim Shield, or Shield for short, and is a dirty, crowded slum of muddy walkways, ramshackled buildings, and lawless poverty. Pyarados serves as a jumping-off point for adventurers going to the Sunrise Mountains, so there are many inns of every conceivable quality outside the walls. Many expedition outfitters live here, selling supplies, dray beasts, and adventuring equipment, often at inflated prices. The wizards tend to leave the adventurers here alone as long as they don't threaten the security of Thay. The result is that outside the walls is a wild, lawless place where authority looks the other way. Law enforcement is far from lax though, despite little official police force. Vigilantes punish crimes just as swift and certain as the Red Wizards. The Pass of Thazar. This is one of the only 2 ways through the Sunrise Mountains, the other being Daggertooth Pass. It follows along the vale of the Thazarim River. At the top of the valley, it is a dangerous path of switchbacks and drop-offs for 10 miles before reaching the Copper River. It's easier to traverse than Daggertooth Pass, but it's not as important because traders from Murgon and Mulhorand just take the road from Pyarados to Rothil and Mulhorand. However, when Mulhorand and Thay used to fight each other centuries ago, it was a much more important route. And that is part 1 of the Tharches of Thay. I will be coming out with a part 2 that covers the remaining Tharches in the next week, so stay tuned for that if you want more lore on the locations of Thay. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and remember to subscribe if you want more D&D lore.